You know what's crazy? The richest people I know drive 10-year-old Toyotas while broke people lease BMWs. Why do people making $200K have $500 in savings, while people earning $60K quietly build million-dollar portfolios? Here's the truth nobody talks about. Real wealth isn't about earning more. It's about 7 invisible habits that compound wealth while you sleep. The flashy guy with designer everything? Probably broke. The woman in Target clothes checking her phone? She might own 3 rental properties. Today, I'm revealing the exact habits that separate the quietly wealthy from the loudly broke. By the end of this video, you'll have a blueprint that transforms ordinary income into extraordinary wealth. But here's the kicker. Habit number 6 is so counterintuitive that it flips everything you think you know about money upside down. Most people do the exact opposite and wonder why they stay poor. Hit subscribe and the notification bell because this changes everything about how you think about building wealth. Let me tell you what nobody talks about. Habit 1. The set it and forget it wealth system. Here's the problem with most Americans and money. They're making the same financial decisions over and over again, every single month. Should I invest this month or pay extra on debt? Should I save more or spend on this emergency? Should I contribute to my 401k or keep the cash? Decision fatigue is killing your wealth before it even starts growing. Every choice drains your mental energy and opens the door for emotions to sabotage your financial future. But here's what quietly wealthy people figured out long ago. They don't make monthly money decisions because they made all their money decisions once, years ago. Let me tell you about Marcus, a plumber I know who makes $65,000 a year but has $400,000 in his investment accounts at age 45. People assume he inherited money or got lucky with crypto. The truth? He automated his entire financial life when he was 25. Every paycheck, the money splits automatically. 20% goes straight to his investment account, 10% feeds his emergency fund, 15% handles his retirement contribution, and the remaining 55% covers his living expenses. He never sees the money that's supposed to build his wealth. It disappears before temptation can touch it. Marcus told me something profound. I'm lazy with money, and that's made me rich. I don't trust myself to make good decisions when I see a sale or want something, so I removed myself from the equation. This is exactly what the ancient Romans did with their aqueduct systems. They built the infrastructure once, carved channels through mountains, laid pipes across valleys, and then clean water flowed to their cities for centuries without any daily effort. The Romans understood that the best systems work without human intervention. Your financial automation is your wealth aqueduct. Set it up once, and money flows toward your future self for decades. Here's your action step. This week, calculate your after-tax income and set up automatic transfers for the day after your paycheck hits. Start with just 10% if 20% feels impossible. The key isn't the amount, it's the automation. Most people rely on motivation to build wealth. But motivation is like the weather. Unpredictable and unreliable. Systems, however, work in sunshine and storms. They work when you're excited about your financial future and when you're stressed about bills. But that's just the obvious part. What I'm about to say is what makes the difference. Habit 2. The buy once, use forever philosophy. Most Americans are trapped in what I call the cheap purchase prison. They buy a $30 pair of work boots that fall apart in 6 months, then buy another $30 pair, then another. After 3 years, they've spent $180 on boots and still need new ones. Meanwhile, the quietly wealthy person spends $200 on quality boots once and wears them for a decade. Same feet, same job, but completely different financial outcome. This isn't about being cheap or expensive. It's about understanding the hidden math of ownership. There's an ancient Jewish teaching about 2 neighbors, one rich, one poor. Every winter, the poor man bought cheap shoes for $10 that lasted 1 season. The rich man bought expensive shoes for $50 that lasted 5 years. After 5 years, the poor man had spent $50 on shoes and needed new ones. The rich man had spent $50 on shoes and still had 3 good years left. The poor man complained, "It's expensive to be poor." But the wise elder explained, "It's not that it's expensive to be poor. It's that poor thinking is expensive." Let me tell you about Sarah, a teacher who makes $48,000 a year but has built more wealth than lawyers making twice her income. Her secret? She thinks in cost per use, not sticker price. When Sarah needed a coffee maker, she didn't buy the $25 machine from the discount store. She researched for 2 weeks and bought a $180 machine that makes better coffee and has a 10-year warranty. Her cost per cup over a decade? About 5 cents. The cheap machine would have broken 3 times, costing her $75, plus the frustration of constantly replacing it. This philosophy extends to everything. She bought a reliable used car for $12,000 instead of financing a new one for $400 a month. She invested in a quality mattress, kitchen knives, and a winter coat. All things she'll use for years. Sarah told me, "People think I'm splurging, but I'm actually the most frugal person I know. I just spread my frugality over time instead of concentrating it at checkout." Here's your action step. Before any purchase over $100, ask yourself the 10-year question. Will I still be using this in 10 years? And what's my cost per use? If something will serve you for a decade, the price per year might be surprisingly reasonable. The quietly wealthy don't mind paying full price for half the stuff. They'd rather own fewer, better things than constantly replace inferior ones. What I'm about to say is what makes the difference. Habit 3. The net worth obsession, not income. Here's the brutal truth that'll shock you. I know a surgeon making $350,000 a year who's broke, and a janitor making $35,000 who's quietly building a 7-figure portfolio. How is that possible? Because income is what flows through your life. Net worth is what stays. Most people obsess over their salary like it's the only number that matters. They get a raise and think they're winning. They see someone with a big paycheck and assume they're wealthy, but they're measuring the wrong thing entirely. There's an ancient Babylonian story about 2 merchants. The first merchant had gold flowing through his hands daily, buying, selling, trading. Everyone saw his busy marketplace and assumed he was the richest man in the city. The second merchant made half the trades but saved a portion of every transaction. After 10 years, the first merchant was still scrambling for his next deal. The second merchant owned half the city. The first merchant confused cash flow with wealth. The second understood that wealth is what you keep, not what you make. Let me tell you about David, a guy who delivers packages for $42,000 a year. Every month, David tracks 3 numbers religiously: his assets, savings, investments, 401k, his liabilities, debt, credit cards, and the difference between them, his net worth. 5 years ago, David had a negative net worth of $15,000 thanks to student loans and credit card debt. Today, he's worth $85,000. That's a $100,000 improvement on a modest salary. Meanwhile, his neighbor Brad makes $95,000 as a marketing manager, but has a net worth of $12,000. Brad focuses on his monthly income. David focuses on his monthly increase in net worth. David told me, "I stopped caring about looking rich when I started caring about being rich. Every dollar I don't spend is a dollar that compounds for decades." The quietly wealthy track their net worth like athletes track their performance. They celebrate when it goes up, analyze when it goes down, and make decisions based on how it affects their long-term financial position. Here's your action step. Calculate your net worth this weekend. Add up everything you own, subtract everything you owe. That's your real financial score. Then commit to increasing it by $1,000 every quarter, regardless of your income. The goal isn't to have the highest salary in the room. It's to have the highest net worth. Wait, there's something you need to pay attention to if you don't want to lose everything. Quick question. Are you tracking your net worth monthly, or are you still just watching your paycheck? Drop a comment with your biggest net worth goal for this year. Habit 4. The 10-year filter for every decision. Here's why most Americans stay financially stuck. They think in paychecks, not decades. They make decisions based on how they feel today instead of how those decisions will compound over the next 10 years. Should I lease this car or buy used? Should I get the expensive coffee or make it at home? Should I move to the trendy apartment or stay in the boring one? Most people ask, what do I want right now? The quietly wealthy ask, where will this decision take me in 2034? This shift in time horizon changes everything because compound interest doesn't care about your quarterly desires. It only rewards long-term thinking. There's an ancient Chinese story about a poor farmer who found a magical seed. A wise man told him, plant this seed, and in 1 year it will give you enough rice to feed your family for a month. But if you wait 10 years without touching it, it will grow into a forest that feeds your village forever. The farmer's neighbors mocked him. You're starving now, they said. Plant it this year and eat. But the farmer understood something they didn't. He wasn't just feeding himself. He was feeding generations. Let me tell you about Jennifer, a nurse who makes $68,000 a year but will retire with over $2 million at age 65. Her secret? Every financial decision gets filtered through her 10-year rule. When Jennifer wanted to lease a new SUV for $450 a month, she ran the numbers. Over 10 years, that lease would cost $54,000 and she'd own nothing. Instead, she bought a reliable 3-year-old car for $18,000 cash and invested the $36,000 difference. That $36,000 growing at 7% annually will become $70,000 in 10 years. By retirement, it could be worth $300,000. So Jennifer's boring car decision was actually a $300,000 wealth decision. When her friends go out for $80 dinners twice a week, Jennifer asks her 10-year-old question. That's $8,000 annually. Over 10 years, invested instead of spent, that becomes $110,000. By retirement, nearly $500,000. Jennifer told me, I'm not depriving myself. I'm choosing my future self over my present self, and my future self is going to be really grateful. Here's your action step. Before any purchase over $200 or any monthly commitment, ask yourself, if I invest this money instead, what could it become in 10 years? Use a compound interest calculator. The numbers will shock you. The quietly wealthy don't fear missing out on today's pleasures. They fear missing out on tomorrow's freedom. But that's just the surface. What's behind it is what will startle people. Habit 5. The multiple faucet strategy. Here's the scary truth about relying on one paycheck. You're always one layoff, one injury, one company downsizing away from financial disaster. Yet most Americans put all their financial eggs in one employment basket and hope nothing goes wrong. The quietly wealthy think differently. They understand that depending on a single income source is like building a house on one foundation pillar. It might hold for years, but when it fails, everything collapses. There's a biblical parable about a wise steward who was given 5 talents by his master. Instead of burying the money or putting it all in one venture, he divided it among different investments, some in trade, some in lending, some in land. When the master returned, the steward had multiplied his wealth, because if one investment failed, the others continued producing. Let me tell you about Robert, a high school teacher making $52,000 a year who's built $180,000 in assets by age 38. His secret? He doesn't just have a job. He has 5 income streams. Stream 1 is his teaching salary. Stream 2 is dividend-paying stocks that send him $200 monthly. Stream 3 is a rental property that generates $300 monthly after expenses. Stream 4 is a small online course he created about classroom management that brings in $400 monthly. Stream 5 is freelance tutoring that adds $500 monthly during the school year. Total additional monthly income? $1,400. That's $16,800 extra per year, a 32% increase over his teaching salary. Robert told me, I started small. My first dividend payment was $12. My first rental profit was $50. My first course sale was $29. But small streams become rivers when you're patient. The key is that Robert didn't try to build all 5 streams simultaneously. He mastered one, then added another. It took him 6 years to build this system, but now it runs largely on autopilot. Here's your action step. This month, start with the easiest stream, dividend-paying stocks. Put $100 into a dividend ETF and watch your first payment arrive. It might be $2, but that's $2 your money earned while you slept. Next month, identify one skill you already have that others would pay to learn. Create a simple digital product or service. Price it low, start small, but start. The quietly wealthy don't work harder. They work in more places. While others depend on their boss's generosity for raises, they depend on their own systems for growth. Don't jump to conclusions, because what comes next can change your perspective completely. Habit 6. The lifestyle immunity mindset. Here's the habit that flips everything you think you know about money upside down. When quietly wealthy people get a raise, their lifestyle barely changes. This sounds backwards, right? Make more money, enjoy more life? But here's the counterintuitive truth. Lifestyle upgrades are wealth killers disguised as rewards. Most Americans treat raises like permission slips to spend more. Get a $10,000 raise? Time for a nicer apartment, a newer car, fancier dinners. Within 6 months, they're living paycheck to paycheck again, just at a higher level. They've climbed the income ladder, but stayed in the same financial prison. The quietly wealthy have developed immunity to this trap. They understand that every lifestyle upgrade comes with invisible chains. Higher fixed costs, greater pressure to maintain appearances, and less money available for wealth building. There's ancient wisdom from Marcus Aurelius that captures this perfectly. How much trouble he avoids who does not look to see what his neighbor says or does, but only to what he does himself. Let me tell you about Patricia, an accountant who went from $45,000 to $85,000 over 5 years. Her friends expected her to move to a luxury apartment, buy a new car, and start shopping at expensive stores. Instead, Patricia did something radical. She kept living like she made $45,000. That extra $40,000 annually, it went straight into investments. Over 5 years, while her friends upgraded their lifestyles and stayed broke, Patricia quietly accumulated $200,000 in assets. Patricia told me, "My friends think I'm crazy. They say, what's the point of making more money if you don't spend it? But I realized I already had everything I needed to be happy at $45,000. The extra money was just an opportunity to buy my freedom faster." When Patricia did upgrade, she followed the one thing rule. With each raise, she improved exactly one aspect of her life: a better mattress, a gym membership, higher quality food. The rest went toward wealth building. Here's your action step. Next time you get a raise, bonus, or unexpected money, use the 90-10 rule. 90% goes to investments or debt elimination. 10% goes to one small lifestyle improvement that genuinely enhances your well-being. The quietly wealthy understand that lifestyle inflation is optional, but wealth acceleration isn't. They choose to live below their means, not because they're cheap, but because they're strategic. It sounds simple, but the hardest part is what's about to be told next. Habit 7. The crisis opportunity response. Here's the moment that separates the quietly wealthy from everyone else. When crisis hits, markets crash, jobs disappear, and emergencies strike. Most people panic, make emotional decisions, and destroy years of progress in weeks. But the quietly wealthy, they see opportunity disguised as disaster. This isn't about being heartless or taking advantage of others' pain. It's about maintaining clarity when everyone else loses their minds. Because a crisis doesn't destroy wealth, panic does. When COVID hit in 2020, most Americans pulled money out of the stock market in fear. The S&P 500 dropped 34% in 5 weeks. People sold everything, convinced the world was ending. But the quietly wealthy did the opposite. They bought more while everyone else was selling. Why? Because they understood a fundamental truth. Every crisis in history has been temporary, but the assets that survive a crisis always recover stronger. There's an ancient Stoic teaching that perfectly captures this mindset. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The Stoics understood that we can't control what happens to us, but we can control how we respond. Let me tell you about Michael, a factory worker who became a millionaire not despite the crisis, but because of it. During the 2008 financial crisis, when everyone was panicking about their 401k losses, Michael made a counterintuitive decision. He increased his contributions. While his coworkers stopped investing entirely, Michael doubled down. He used his tax refund, overtime pay, and even sold some possessions to buy more stocks when they were 50% off. His friends called him crazy. "You're throwing money away," they said. 10 years later, those crazy purchases had quadrupled in value. Michael told me, "I realized that a crisis is just a clearance sale for assets. The wealthy don't panic during sales, they shop." The quietly wealthy have 3 crisis advantages. First, they have emergency funds, so they never have to sell investments at the worst possible time. Second, they have low debt, so they're not forced into desperate decisions. Third, they have the emotional discipline to think in decades, not days. Here's your action step. Create your crisis response plan now, while you're calm. Write down exactly what you'll do if markets crash 30%. Will you sell in panic or buy more? Having a predetermined plan removes emotion from crisis decisions. The quietly wealthy understand that wealth is transferred during crisis, not created during calm. They position themselves to be buyers when everyone else is forced to be sellers. So here's the truth that separates the quietly wealthy from the loudly broke. Real wealth isn't built through dramatic moves or get-rich-quick schemes. It's built through 7 boring habits that compound silently over decades, while everyone else chases shiny objects. The surgeon driving the Lamborghini? Probably broke. The teacher driving the 10-year-old Honda? Probably building generational wealth through automation, smart purchasing, net worth obsession, long-term thinking, multiple income streams, lifestyle immunity, and crisis preparation. These habits don't make headlines because they're not exciting. They don't trend on social media because they're not flashy. But that's exactly why they work. While the world is distracted by financial entertainment, the quietly wealthy are building the real thing behind the scenes. Here's what I want you to do. Pick one habit from today's video and implement it this week. Don't try to do all 7 at once. That's a recipe for failure. Master one, then add another. Comment "Invisible Millionaire" if you're ready to stop looking rich and start being rich. Tell me which habit you're starting with first. I read every comment and love seeing your progress. Should I reveal how millionaires actually spend their money next? Or break down the investment accounts the quietly wealthy use? Drop your suggestions below. Remember this, while others are performing wealth on Instagram, you'll be building it in spreadsheets. While they're buying things to impress people they don't like, you'll be buying your freedom. The quietly wealthy aren't lucky, they're strategic. And now you have their blueprint.